the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your host, Joshua, and today's question is: have you ever felt like you're fighting a losing battle in a system that was supposed to protect you? I mean, it's a it's a heavy feeling, and it's not something anybody would like to feel, especially when it comes to the justice system. Well, our guest today is the perfect person to answer that question, and she will be sharing her insight and her perspective with us today. Maryann Petri is an author and podcast host who turned her struggles with the family court into a mission to help others. Her book, Dismantling Family Court Corruption: Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, reveals the corruption within the system and includes her poetry written during these challenging times. She also hosts a podcast, Slam the Gavel, where guests share their experience with court corruption. Maryann's work is set to inspire further change also with a short film, The Mailbox, currently in post production. She encourages persistence in the quest for justice, and today she shares this persistence and this wisdom and her experiences with this day. Maryann, how are you doing? Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
And Maryann, it's quite the topic that we're gonna have to talk that we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna have today your journey, your personal struggles, coming to be an advocate against family court corruption is of course compelling. We have, there's a lot of stories like that as well. First off, let's start at the very beginning. I mean, where did this all begin, right? Like what initially led you to write your book, and what really put you in the path of your struggles with the court system, with the family court system. Where did this all begin? What is the story of Maryann Petri?
Well, I didn't want to end up in the family court system. I didn't know things like this actually could happen to people.
Mm,
What happened was people kept saying, what happened? What happened with your kids? What happened? I just got that question all the time. So I
mm,
thought, well, I'll just write the book,
mm,
Dismantling Family Court Corruption: Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough.
mm,
And what that led to is basically a book that's a handbook that will help parents through the family court system, whether they're representing themselves, what to look for with personality disorders, which is what I was dealing with when I got sucked into it, because no way would I ever have thought of going in there.
mm,
What led to that was that we had been co-parenting. We had gotten divorced at the beginning of 2005. um, he remarried in 2007
mhm,
to a woman that I don't know if I was aware or not aware that she worked in the courthouse.
mm.
And the unfortunate thing is I actually set them up on a date. So believe me, no good deed goes unpunished, people.
Oh my God. Okay.
Right. Well, you're co-parenting well, you think you are,
You think,
and
yeah.
she
Mm,
inserted herself into the co-parent relationship as well as with the children
no
very
way.
insidiously. So when I remarried in November of 2011, by 2012 things started ramping up.
That's it. Okay, okay. By 2011, she started ramping up, and she must have started really doing, showing signs that she is overstepping. And
Mhm.
this must have felt really. When did it start going from feeling uncomfortable to feeling really serious? And how did this begin to unravel?
Well, it started in 2013 when I got hauled into court because he filed an emergency petition
Mm,
wanting to take away only the middle child away from me, saying that I was mentally ill as well as my child. And thankfully, the judge didn't buy it. She kept
Wow. Okay.
everything status quo.
Okay. Wow.
So that's when things started getting weird.
Okay.
And then by 2014, the silver bullet, which is also called a false accusation, was placed. And
Okay. Okay.
I don't know how far you want me to go in with that, but that's what really got it going.
Okay. Right. And so, oh well, the court corruption now is the really compelling part in here, and I feel like we need to be able to get a complete picture before we truly, so that we could truly understand where the court corruption really began. So the silver bullet was the false accusation, and of course, before we proceed, I thank you for your bravery in telling this story. It's never easy, reliving it, but also, you were able to write a book about this. You were able
Mm.
to put yourself in that situation, go through that situation, face it. So what was the silver bullet? What was the false accusation? And are you telling me that the family court bought this?
Entirely.
Oh
What
my
happened with
goodness.
the false the false accusation was my 16-year-old, who was going to be 17 in a couple months,
Hmm.
did not like the rules at my home. I,
Okay.
I was strict with, her having boys over and curfews and things like that.
Hmm.
And so she just left the home. And that day, that was November 12th, exactly on my current husband's and our wedding anniversary, if you can
Right.
believe that. That's what they do. They schedule things around your birthday and your
Wow.
anniversary,
Wow.
and that's no joke. And so we had CPS at our door,
Mm. Oh wow.
and she was very unstable. She came into the house very kind of like a bull in a china shop. And
Hmm.
luckily, my husband was laid off at the time, and she just was very aggressive, firm, yelling. We
Hmm.
really couldn't wait for her to leave. She stayed a whole hour and a half,
Oh my goodness.
and she knew more about my ex-husband's financial information than I did. So, from what I gathered from there was she conducted a one-sided interview. The spouse of the ex-husband, being that she worked in the courthouse, started judge shopping and found the right attorney, where they both worked together
Right.
for several
Okay.
years before he became a judge.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So the accusation was from your daughter, or
Mhm.
rather, they kind of used that as the vehicle to truly put you in a light that to put you in a bad light.
Right.
And they went to court. And why do you feel like the family court bought this entirely? What was the clincher for them, and why do you think it was such a compelling case for them?
Well, this was an emotional abuse allegation that turned into an indication, which cost me my job as a career, or my career as a registered nurse.
Oh
And
my
why
God.
it worked so well was that, you know, the spouse of the ex was able to orchestrate finding the right judge who
That's
knew the
it.
right attorney.
That's
And
it.
so they all worked well together. They all played in the
Mm.
same sandbox, and it was already rigged before I walked in there.
Wow, that's it. It was already rigged before you walked in there. And Marianne, what year was this?
This was 2015 now,
Hmm.
because that's when I had to withdraw from working in the emergency department at the hospital,
Hmm.
because now I was indicated. I even had this caseworker calling me at work and screaming at me on the phone.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so, right, here, you've got a nurse helping people, And that's what you want to do, pull them out of the field, especially a
Mhm.
seasoned one.
Mhm.
To go through this, we
Mhm.
went before the president judge who behaved like Pontius Pilate and was even questioning the caseworker and his attorney as to why now? Why are we doing this on March or February 29th?
Mhm.
Why
Mhm.
didn't you remove the boys in November? Why are we here now? So
Exactly.
he just washed his hands of it and sent it to a family court judge
Mhm.
who
To the
knew his
right.
attorney very well.
That's it. To the right judge, the right people. So everything was against you. The odds were extremely stacked against you. And uh, how long did it take? Or how quickly did it take? So, Marianne, you're telling me were all your kids taken from you?
Basically in one fell swoop. The oldest
Oh
had
man.
already left, so the youngest ones were like 12 and 13, 13
Mhm.
going on 14. And I should be grateful they were at that age, you
Mm.
know? And
Right.
so on March 2nd of 2015, as soon as CPS sits in the witness stand and
Yeah.
lies through
Yeah.
her teeth, the
That's it.
judge believes everything. It's
Mhm.
over. It's
That's it.
over.
Exactly. Exactly. And I've heard similar stories like that, but this is the first time I get to truly speak with someone like you who's gone through it, personally. Marianne, it is a harrowing story. It's unimaginable. Now, this was back 2015, and I feel like you must have had fought hard and
Mhm.
fought, you know, uh, I couldn't see you just lying down and taking it. What
Mhm.
happened after that? And then how did you fight back? What did you start doing?
Well, you go through several attorneys. Once you figure out those aren't going to work
Mm-hmm.
and they are not effective
Mm-hmm.
against collusion
Mm-hmm.
and conflicts of interest, really the case should have been moved to another county.
Yes,
That
of course. That's it.
didn't happen.
Oh, it didn't happen. Oh, what?
No, no.
Okay.
So I had to represent myself and I was doing okay. I was doing as best as I could with what I had to deal with.
Okay. Okay.
And I have been used to a lot of verbal abuse. You know, when you're a nurse for 23 years, you get used to being verbally abused. In that marriage for 10 years, I was verbally abused, so I can handle it. So when they're chiding you and mocking you, it's like, you know, you just throw your hands in the air.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I just started watching what the opposing attorney was doing, and I thought, well, I can learn from him.
okay.
Let's see. He's winning everything, so I'm going to start doing what he was doing, and he was very dramatic, and he used these arm gestures. He was,
Okay.
always like this. What, and so I started doing the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it took him. He's slow, right? Like if
Oh,
he'd grown, and
okay.
so I got him. I was on the witness stand and I got him good because he asked if I was going to report him to the bar association or whatever. And I said, well, let's see how you do today. And then
Oh,
he said, well, he said, you've reported the caseworker, you've reported the judge.
uh-huh.
And he says, then you reported the caseworker to who's trying to name the governor's name. He says, who is this honorable Tom Wolf? And
Okay.
I said, and everyone burst into laughter. And I couldn't really hear, but I said, the governor of the state of
Oh
Pennsylvania,
my goodness.
like
Oh
that.
my
And
goodness.
he was like this, who is this Tom Wolf? And everyone just burst into laughter. And the girl that was typing, on her little thing, she looked up at me
Mm,
on the
mm,
witness stand and she was just smiling away.
mm.
That was my really good victory there. I
That's
just put
it.
him in her place. That's
Oh,
about it.
well, okay.
But I did beat him in Superior Court on a child
Okay.
support case. So that was a major victory.
Okay. Well, first off, it's like you turned lawyer overnight. First off, is
Mm,
what it sounds like. You became an attorney overnight. You're battling such a system. It's a massive system, to go up against.
mm,
But now, Marianne, I imagine there is some good ending to this. I mean, up to where you are today, and
Mhm.
of course, uh, walk us through a little bit about that. But now I understand that I believe you started writing poetry to get through this. That is where you have your cry out for justice. This is a poets of truth, a collection of your poetry, different types of poetry. That some of it actually is also included in your book, Dismantling Family Court Corruption.
Mhm.
Your poetry, you mentioned that it has played a significant role in your healing process. And how did writing poetry help you cope with the challenges that you faced? And what do you feel the impact has it had on your readers?
Well, it's been interesting. I would wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning and lines would start coming to me and I would just start writing
Oh
them
wow.
into my phone.
Oh wow.
And I had one poem that someone I put it on Facebook just to put it out there. And one woman said, "This sounds like this could be put to rap music." And
Mm,
then I put up another one. It was about due process loss.
okay.
And I had an attorney write to me and say, "Can I hang this outside my door?" And so I said, "Yeah, go right ahead as long as my name
Okay.
is on it."
Oh wow, oh, wow. Like a Karl Marx type like on the door, like kind of truly fighting the system, but this time with poetry, written word. Um,
Mhm.
Marianne, then when did you start writing your book? At this point in time, as you kept fighting and fighting, dismantling the family court corruption, when did
Mhm.
you start writing the book? And what do you
Mhm.
feel the impact has it had once you finish and once you wrote the book?
Well, I started writing that in 2019, and it was published March 26th of 2020.
Hmm.
And, it had a huge impact where it was, um, picked up at first by a Canadian producer, and 2 years went by and things really weren't cooking, but it led to a 5-time Emmy award-winning New York, director, Adam
Okay.
Worth, and it kinda went from there.
Okay. All right. All right. And now what do you feel like where it is at, and how do you feel like it has helped you with writing this experience, and how much more different was it writing it as the poetry or writing it fully as a book, and again just reliving the situation.
Mhm. Oh, that was bad, right. I'm writing a book about what happened. I handed my publisher 325 pages, and she says, "Anyone reading this, going through this, needs something that is readable and quick and easy to digest, going through the stress of what you went through on top of what they're going through. So let's"
Hmm.
we talked about it, and it's like, "Why don't we turn it into a handbook?" And she put in takeaways of, "How did this happen? How could I have made this better? What is a personality disorder? What is
Hmm.
parental alienation?"
Oh man, of course. It's just a lot of there that um I feel like, again, it's stories like these happen, but at the same time it's difficult to talk about it, and I can imagine that people find solace. And again, again, like, literally the second name of this show is stories. Like, we love stories, but even though the heavy stories also, but they are also giving us lessons. They give us
Mhm,
a
mhm,
way to express ourselves, so to speak. People who are otherwise aren't able to tell their own stories, they feel like they're able to tell these stories, especially now with other people's telling their stories as well. You discuss, you talk about going pro se. Am I saying this right? Pro
mhm.
se, as a necessary step when it
Oh,
comes
yeah.
to being financially drained by the family court system.
Oh,
What
yes.
advice would you give someone who is representing themselves in court, because this is something that's just, it's unthinkable, and it's almost like you're fighting a losing battle by doing that. um
Mhm.
what happened through your process when you were representing yourself, and what exactly is pro se?
Well, that's the end of the line. Pro se is the end of the line. They call pro ses crazy, but when a pro se knows what they're doing and they know their laws and they are answering back very well, speaking very well, then they
Mm,
really call the pro se crazy. And unfortunately, they do that because they want to mock you for knowing what you're doing.
that's it. Mhm, mhm.
Uh,
um
then and people go pro se because they've run out of money. I had
mhm,
swiped up a bunch of, charge cards, things like that. That had to stop.
mhm. Maryann, again, it's a tough battle, and it's unthinkable, but it's also at the same time so brave and courageous of you of wanting to fight through this. But what happened now? So what is now the situation? You have written about it. You have represented yourself. What happened towards the end? What was the result of this, of representing this? You've had to teach yourself. You have to go up the family court system. Were you, has any of your views changed toward this? But was there a happy ending on this, Maryann?
I would have to be honest with you and say, no, there isn't.
Mm,
I try to warn people just to stay out of family court.
mhm.
Just, if you have a rocky marriage, try to work it out, because if you go in there, you're going to kiss your 401k goodbye.
Oh my
You
goodness.
will you will lose everything. You will
Mm,
lose your kids. You're dealing with personality disorders. A lot of these judges are sociopaths. So they
mm.
identify with an attorney or client that they think they can identify with as another sociopath.
Oh my goodness. And they go up against you, they go up against a vulnerable, and it's just
Mhm.
the injustice of it, right?
Right.
It's so sad, the injustice of it, because it happens to a lot of people, and sometimes we don't really, it's always comes when we least expect it. Like we don't think it's ever going to happen to us, and then it happens. And it's
Mhm.
just, that's, I feel like it's a sad part. It's like you're looking at it and you don't want the same injustice to happen to you, and you're hoping that, man, we need to tell these stories, so
Right.
so if the same injustice doesn't happen to others. Maryann, that was 2015, it's now 2024, it's almost been 10 years. How has your relationship been with your kids?
Well, after family court ended because they were aging out and there was no way
Mhm,
I could win, and I had to explain that to them that this was all rigged, and I tried to run my own child custody for 50-50, which is what they wanted, and it
mhm,
was all rigged
mhm,
against me.
mhm,
So, then I started a federal lawsuit
mhm,
suing the corporation, the caseworkers, um, and, the other party who
mhm,
kept calling in the false accusations,
mhm,
and that did not help the relationship with the middle one.
mhm,
The oldest one has not really spoken to me really technically since
mhm.
2014. The middle one, I thought things would be getting better, and, everything kind of fell through about, would you believe, several weeks ago. So I really don't know where I stand even with the
Oh,
youngest one,
mhm,
because this alienation continues into adulthood by
mhm.
means of financial control.
Oh my goodness, and it's just, it's a losing battle. It truly is. But
Yes.
I feel saddened with the results, but I feel also, I feel like hope never has wavered from you. This is what I feel
Mm,
when I talk to you right now, and I want to support you. We want to support you. To keep fighting that fight, and
mhm,
hopefully, I mean, someday, like I said, your children, they're going to grow on to be adults, and they might understand it themselves someday. And I think there is, if there's one unbeatable thing in this world, is one sure thing, guaranteed thing in this world, it would be the mother's love. And
mhm,
I think that that is not going anywhere. And I support you in your endeavor, Maryann. Maryann, how has this shaped your experience now with life, and how are you looking forward to the future?
Well, I'm looking forward to my fourth book being published,
All
which is
right.
Raised by These Wolves,
Mm-hmm.
Volume 2,
Mm-hmm.
Child Trafficking Through the Foster Care and Court Systems.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be out hopefully by, I'll say July 10th,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we hope.
All right.
And so also with the podcast going on, its fourth year now,
Mm-hmm.
people are speaking out. There's strength in numbers. I had interviewed several moms from North Carolina. I just interviewed 6 moms on a panel from California. And people want to, they're gaining the courage to speak out
That's
on
it.
these judges.
That's it. That's it. And that is a noble cause, Maryann. I mean, again, you're telling your story so others can tell their stories. But not only that, you're now giving them a platform to be
Mm.
able to tell their stories, because these are very, very important. I love it. You're turning this strategy, this incredibly massive injustice, you're turning into sort of triumph. In fact, you're even turning into a weapon to fight back. And there is I do not see and I do not feel the hopelessness in you,
Mm.
and not a single bit of it. But it must have felt, massively hopeless throughout the whole experience. But Maryann, you are here today. You are sharing your story, and I'd like to thank you for coming on to the show. I'd love to give you this opportunity. Where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? Where can our audience and listeners stay in touch with you? And maybe they have a story of their own. Where can they contact you?
Sure. They can find me on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com.
Mm-hmm.
There is blogs on there that I have written,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as well as other podcasts and my books. They can order my books from there or on Amazon.
Wow. All right. I mean, this is very important information. Our audience and listeners, I encourage you, if you are going through this similar story, if you know someone going through a similar story, please get on Mary's podcast, or contact her, or let her know. There is strength in numbers, like you said, Mary, and people just need to get together, have support, find support, and you can find that support with Mary and the community she's building. Mary, one last bit of wisdom that you would like to leave behind with us today. What would it be? Take us home.
Well, would you like me to read a poem called CPS
Oh,
Lies?
please, please, please come. One poem,
Okay.
please.
Well, even through this, you have to have a sense of humor. I'm sorry, but it does evolve. All right, here we go. The caseworker with the Dr. Seuss hair came to your house without a care, with frivolous accusations and lies, ready to destroy your children's lives. Anonymous phone call, who could it be? An axe to grind, as you can see. Waiting for the right time to step in, she doesn't care that lying is a sin. Family court ready, there she sits, proudly by the judge, smiling like shit. Eat and grin, she lies to and fro, ruining your family just like so. With deceit and slander, she runs her mouth as you watch your case heading south. Perpetrator on the stand, she repeats. The judge already assumes you're a deadbeat. Your reputation destroyed, you've lost your job. The caseworker tells your kids you're a slob. The other parent has so much to gain, not paying child support. Now you're in pain. The lies continue. She cannot stop. Perpetual lying has been her backdrop. Now she will move on to someone new to destroy their family for something to do.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Dropping the heat and dropping the bars. I mean, it's well deserved for the people, who are struggling as well. It's a great outlet. It must have been a great outlet for you, and great
Mhm.
outlet for the same people who are going through the same thing. Maryann, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being on the
Thank
show.
you. Thank you for having me on.
Fantastic. I am honored to have had this as a platform for you to share your story. And to all our audience and listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed this show just as much as I did. And thank you for watching the episode. See you on the next one. Bye bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you.
So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.